Welcome to DubLife Diaries, the podcast where passion meets the open road. I'm Joe Person, your host, and also a lifelong dubber. Buckle up because this ride is just beginning. This podcast is sponsored by Volksmania magazine. Good times, great cars, awesome Volksmaniacs. Visit Volksmania.com to learn more about this class-leading VW magazine. Welcome back to DubLife Diaries. My next guest, this is going to be an awesome one. He doesn't just build cars. He actually built an entire scene. So when two major VW drag events died about 20 years ago up in Michigan, most people would say, well, that's the end. But not Bren Hartman. He picked up the phone and he cold called a drag strip and refused to let VW racing die. He had US 131 Bug Run that today and now then became Eurofest, if I'm not mistaken, right? US 131 Eurofest, which is still alive and it's kicking today. And so is Michigan VW drag racing. This guy's restored them. He's flipped them. He owns about 6 of them right now. We're going to talk all about them. He races. He wins. He's behind me right here. You can see him. He's smoking his tires and getting it going. He organizes. He even has a Dairy Queen cruise night that he started because, well, why not? This is about keeping the culture alive, right? Bren Hartman, welcome to DubLife Diaries.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, sir. Before we get going tonight, I do want to give a shout out to my sponsors. You guys know already. First one up on the list is Volksmania magazine. Good times, great cars, awesome Volksmaniacs. Visit Volksmania.com. You guys can use DubLife10. That's DUBLIFE, the number 10 at checkout, and you'll get 10% off your first issue. I say it all the time, and I'm not going to take the opportunity to not say it again. But it's not just the quality of the pages. It's the people behind this magazine that make it special, make it what it is. So check those guys out again, Volksmania.com. Also, shout out to Salty Dub from the beach to the bay. Salty Dub is tearing up the VW coastal scene. These guys do events, epic events, by the way. They got tons of swag on the website, saltydub.com. Same discount code applies. Use DubLife10. Again, DUBLIFE, the number 10 at checkout. Also, shout out to my buddy Paul, the Oval Office. I'm repping his club. Awesome club. Obviously, all Oval Beetles. But yeah, man. All right, I'm done with the shout outs. I'm done with the sponsors. It's back to you. And now it's all about you. You ready?
Sounds good.
All right, man. So let's go back to the beginning. All right. I want to know. You got a whole lifetime in these things. How did VWs first enter your life?
You know, it's been interesting going back and looking at stuff, kind of going down memory lane since you and I started setting this up. And where Volkswagen started for me isn't 100% clear. I don't really know. I know as a kid, we went to Florida a lot. My grandparents lived there, and they were way more prevalent there. So that's probably where the appeal started.
What
I
part of
remember
Florida?
asking pardon me.
What part of Florida?
They were in Fort Lauderdale in the beginning, and then they kind of semi-retired to Mount Dora area.
Oh, okay. So they were a little further south, and then they came up a little north to Mount Dora area. Fort
Yeah,
Lauderdale,
where it was less hectic for them.
I bet. Yeah, Fort
Right.
Lauderdale, huge scene for Volkswagens, especially just a little north of Miami. Miami, epic scene for classic Volkswagens for sure.
Right. Yeah, I remember asking my dad if I could buy one when we were down there, and he's like, nope. He was a GM career guy, and they don't have heat, all that kind of stuff. So I didn't get one till way later.
So let's talk about that. What was the first one that you actually owned?
The first one I had, actually, I had bought a Fox, a four-door Fox.
Okay.
It was just a daily driver, just something I had bought locally, had it for about a year. But the first air-cooled I got was a 73 standard Beetle, baby blue. Found it on eBay back in 2000.
Okay.
And the car was in St. Louis, Missouri. Contacted the guy, loaded up the family in our car, and drove out there, hitting all the money machines I could find to get enough cash to buy this thing.
Right.
And Get to his house and we're looking it all over and decide to buy it. And he asked me, "So how you getting this thing home?" I said, "Well, I'm driving it." He said, "No, you're not." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he tells me he just retired, worked for the city and drove truck for them. And but he had taken this car in on trade, didn't know enough about it, wasn't letting me drive home with it. And he said, "I'll deliver it." I said, "Well, I can't afford to pay you to deliver this car to me." He said, "Buy me breakfast. I'll have it there this weekend." And
Nice.
he did. He showed up early one morning with the car on a trailer. We unloaded it. And he said, "I saw a pancake house down the road. Give me $20 for breakfast. We're all set."
Wow, cool, man. That's a great
Pretty cool encounter with someone, that was just legit and did the right thing and wasn't trying to profit off of it. So it was a
yeah.
cool start.
That's super cool. And you
Yeah,
tend to hear those types of stories inside of this community. This guy wasn't even a part of our community, but he still ended
exactly.
up being cool like that, right? That's very cool.
Yeah,
What do
yeah.
you think made you fall in love with these cars originally? Was it the look? Was it did you get bit by the community bug? Was it the simplicity of them? Like what do you think made you fall in love originally?
I think it had to be more the look because I didn't know the community. I didn't really know anything about the simplicity of them. Um, I think it was just more such a unique vehicle, and but beyond that, I don't really know. I learned a lot when I bought that first car.
I
It
bet. Now,
figured stuff out. Yeah.
I'll go back to my beginning. My first was a 72 standard, which was an auto clutch, and it was in 96. I was fresh out of high school. I graduated in 95, and I was working at the Sears Automotive Center in a Jiffy Lube. And I come out of work one night about 5:30, 6 o'clock, and I saw this car sitting out on the perimeter of the parking lot. And I saw a for sale sign in the window. I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
I know this whole parking lot. I'm out here every day. They must have just set it up. So I go out and I look at it. It was like 2 grand. I was like, well,
Hmm.
shoot, I got that in the bank right now. I mean, this car is cool as hell. It's 70,000 miles or so on it. Little old lady owned it. I was like, yes, sir, let's go. So I called her and she met me down there and I gave her cash and I drove away in it. Uh,
Nice.
I loved it. It ran for a very long time. I ended up running into trouble finding replacement parts for that solenoid vacuum system.
Yeah.
Yeah, I ran into some trouble back then, so I ended up putting the 4 speed in it and changing the pedal assembly out. I didn't. I had to pay somebody to do it
Hmm.
back then. But yeah, I ended up go back with a stick shift. Then it was even more fun to drive, I feel like.
Right. Right.
But going back to your kind of your background, I'm interested to hear. Did you grow up around racing, or was this something that maybe you discovered later in your life?
Yeah, I didn't really grow up around it. I didn't really know people that worked on cars too much. Couple guys that were older than me, but closest thing to coming around or growing up around it was just watching it on NHRA, on TV.
Right.
The big name racers and stuff, watching it with my dad. But I didn't really get into racing until after we started the bug run, which, as you said, is now Eurofest.
Right.
Yeah, just kind of something that happened later on.
So how old were you in your life when you started to realize maybe this isn't just a hobby? Maybe this is like a lifestyle choice for me.
Well, it was 2006
Okay.
when we basically started the Eurofest, and then at the same time, I met some guys that were starting a club in the area, and kind of those two things at the same time kind of kicking off, and they worked together. The club got real involved with helping promote and grow the Eurofest, so that's kind of when it all started changing for me. And by that time, I was into my second Beetle. So,
Okay. You
yeah.
you still own any of these OGs?
No.
Okay. I don't either.
Yeah.
My first or my second. So you've restored a few. I know you've flipped a few.
Yeah.
what did you learn mostly the hard way? We all have those lessons that these cars have taught us over time. What did you learn the hard way?
Right. I don't know how much it was necessarily the hard way, but maybe a couple th the thing that surprised me is I did too actually, had them painted. They were pretty nice cars. I won some shows with them, won some trophies with them at shows. Um, but shortly into owning them, I realized that I was afraid to drive them. They were like too nice. And the first one I had done was a 67 Beetle, done it in Savannah beige, had a 1776 in it. And ended up finding my current 67 was a patina car.
Mhm.
And once I had gotten that done, I just enjoyed the patina more. So a lot of work into some a pretty nice Beetle and a pretty nice bus and got rid of them and pretty much just have patina stuff now.
Yeah, I saw that in your
Right.
backstory. Maybe want to ask you why is that what the why behind it is? Because you don't have the same kind of stance on the shininess, on maybe the anxiety of banging it up or something like that. Is that why you love patina so much?
Yeah, that's a big part of it. And then when I did the 67 patina that I've got now, there it was real popular then. There was a lot of activity online with that, and so I was kind of copying a scene that was going on then.
Okay. I mean, that's cool. I haven't been in my past. I haven't really been that into, some surface rust and or some faded paint and some patina. I wasn't. As I've kind of grown in the scene, even in the culture, I've become more attracted to them. And I think
Mm,
it's the same reason. I think it's because they just, I'm down here on the beach, me and my buddy have a company, Salty Dub. It's like it just looks saltier. It just looks to me, it's just cooler. It looks more
right.
aged. You could do some nice wheels, beautiful interior, a beautiful engine, and your body can be a little, doesn't have to be so perfect. And to me, it's like I kind of like that, actually prefer that even more myself now. So that's cool.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
let's walk through your current lineup, almost like we're sitting in the garage together and we're going to talk about each one of these cars. So let's start with the
Sure.
71 Westie. Give me the build story. Talk to me just a little bit about it, and then let's touch on maybe some, I don't know, camper stories or maybe road trips or just something. Give me something on the 71 Westie. Tell me about how you acquired it and all that good stuff.
Right. Well, that one bus I told you about that we did and restored, it was a 69. It was a really nice one. I had it at a local show. And this guy come up to me and is talking to me about buses and asking a whole bunch of crazy questions. And I finally asked him, I said, well, why do you ask? He said, well, I've got this bus. My wife won't let me drive it anymore. And I'm trying to figure out what it's worth. And long story short, we went to his house with a buddy of mine, looked it over. We went out to dinner and I called him back up, made him an offer. And I'm the second owner of this bus. That couple had bought it new in Wisconsin, moved to Michigan. So the interior is very original.
Wow.
The stool that's always gone is in there. It's original vinyl, but it shows its age. It shows it was used. He had the spray paint covering up some scratches on the body from his kids' bicycles and so forth. Um, but it's been really fun. I added some Coney shocks to it. It handles great now. I eventually put a 2180 in it
Hmm.
uh, that's in there now. Because one day my wife's like, I really like this bus, but it's slow. I'm like, well, I've got a solution for that.
Sounds like a
So,
pretty good solution.
yeah, it's been a lot of fun. But honestly, we mainly just drive it locally, drive it to shows. We love taking like Sunday drives in it, just getting lost in the country. But we haven't really used it for camping, just more of a driver.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I can take
Yeah.
that. All right,
Yeah.
let's move to the 63. So you got a 63 11 window, this patina bus. Give
Yeah.
me backstory. How'd you find this one?
Found it on Marketplace. It was a
Okay.
guy that I'd seen on Facebook. He's done a lot of buses, seen a lot of his work. And the first time I saw it, I kind of ignored it. Second time, I thought, you know what? I'm going to look into this. I've seen pictures of his work. It looks high quality and just pursued it. I had been thinking about getting a tin top Westie and doing my own interior, like an early bay. I thought, well, I can do the same thing with this, and was interested in getting a split. Price was good. So it's about Thanksgiving this last year. And a buddy of mine I talked to the seller a lot of questions, super accommodating. But a buddy of mine and we got in the car and headed down there with the U-Haul trailer and looked it over and bought it, brought it home.
Good stuff. I love stories like that. I
Yeah,
love we get to go bring them home. Even more, I think I'm kind of like the thrill of the chase guy too.
right.
I got I'll make an admission, probably maybe 2 hours a day, which is too much. I'm on Facebook Marketplace. Sometimes I even go change my market. I'll go out, because I spent a long time out in Colorado raising my kids and having a family out there, about 9 years. So sometimes I'll go in the marketplace and I'll change my location out to Colorado Springs again. And
Mm,
I'll look around there because, out west there's no moisture. So there's a lot of dry cars out there.
right.
Really not, not a lot of rust. So, I'll dream.
Yep.
I'll dream and I'll find them. But yeah, I love how these cars always end up finding us. All right, let's move over to the 67. You got a 67 Patina Bug. Tell me a little bit about this one.
Yeah, th this one, well, we had found it. We were going to a show. We used to go to the Mid-America uh, show. It's about a 5 hour drive. And I was going down there in that beige 67 I was telling you about, and we saw this car on the side of the road. At the time, I was considering doing like the German look Super Beetle,
Okay.
big engine, big tires, all that kind of stuff. And we got to the show, and I saw the perfect German look car there. And I started looking it over and adding up the dollars. I'm like, I can't do this right now. It's way too much money. And then I asked my buddy, what was that car we saw on the side of the road? And then it was a 67. And we stopped and looked at it and ended up contacting the sellers of it as a business and went back the next weekend and bought it. Um, but it was a patina car. The guy said he had the heater channels and floor pans that it needed. Of course, they weren't the parts you really want to put on the car. Um, but yeah, a friend of mine was a welder. He helped me do the pans and the channels, and our club was real active at the time. And a lot of people helped put that car together.
Cool.
Um, yeah, so it's got the pans and the channels and a 4 inch narrow beam, and it's lowered and
Oh
got
yeah.
lowering springs in the back and a full Blaupunk stereo in it.
Ooh,
And I've had that for, gosh, probably 12 years now. So it's the longest one I've ever owned. But
okay.
yeah, a
Sounds
lot of
nice.
fun.
Sounds like one I'd like
Oh,
to drive. I like them low.
right. Yep.
Yeah.
All summer long, I would drive it back and forth to work. Yep. Just a nice cruiser.
All right, let's move over to the Super Beetle. Now, to
Right.
me, Super Beetles get a lot of hate for some reason. I like them. I think they're sexy still, regardless, and they're also comfortable. But you got a 72 Super Beetle. Tell me about it.
Yep. Yeah, this was my buddy's car. I'll talk a little bit more about him later, but he had a bunch of cars. This was his favorite one. He had found it on the side of the road. It had been beat up a little bit, but it was a California car, rust free. I mean, the doors close perfect. I
Cool.
mean, there's absolutely no sag in the car or anything. But yeah, I think they're underrated. They handle great. Um, and I've done some stuff to it since I got it after Rudy had passed, um, but I digress a little bit. I had a Carmen Ghia that I've since sold, and I had a 2110 in it. He
Oh,
came over and drove that car, and he's like, "What am I doing? I've got all the parts to put together a motor like that." And he had planned to build this motor and put it in this car,
okay.
and he got sick and never finished it.
Oh,
And so different cars and whatever, and I had that motor, and then I ended up getting this car from another friend of his that had bought it originally. And I put that 2110 in his car and
There you go.
finished it for him, you
Good,
know.
good friend, good buddy.
Yeah. And so now the car's got like top line struts in the front to lower it, and I've got scat high back seats in it that look period correct,
Cool.
and it's got an A1 Sidewinder, which you'll hear is a theme. I've got four of those now. Uh, I think they're great exhaust, but it's a blast to drive. It handles amazing. It's fast. It's the classic car with no stereo in it because you just listen to the engine.
Awesome.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, sounds like it's fun. Now let's talk about the real fun though. So you got a 1970 drag Beetle.
yeah.
Tell us everything.
Yeah, it's the one behind you there in the picture, and it's changed some since I've owned it. That was also Rudy's car.
Okay.
He and I drag raced together. He was a big autocrosser, and I pulled him into drag racing. But this car, when he finished it, he took it to what was called the Ohio Mile. And it was a mile-long course, and he set a record in that car with the 1600 cc engine for
What?
the fastest mile. Yep.
Wow. That's
So,
cool.
yeah. He started a roll cage in that car before he got sick, and then I got the car from him. I finished the roll cage and was able to show him pictures that it was done, and that really made him happy. Since then, I've upgraded it. He had actually given me an engine. Just it was a long block, and it ended up needing some work, but I put a 2110 in this and upgraded the transmission, and in 2024, I finally got the car into the sevens in the eighth mile. And 2025, I had a 2276 built for it. And now I'm solidly into the sevens with this car, which I don't know how familiar you are with the Volkswagen bracket racing scene, but most of the classes break at 8 seconds. So that put me into Super Pro.
Oh.
Um, so I've just started doing Super Pro last year, and and then I started doing double entering and running Super Pro and Pro. And the funny thing to me is I was making notes for the podcast here and just looking at things. It's like I spent all this time getting the car fast, and now I'm trying to also figure out how to slow it down and run both classes. Seems kind of
Oh,
ironic.
yeah, for sure. That's funny
Yeah.
though. Yeah.
Yeah. But a buddy of mine local here, Greg Hudson, he does transmissions and engines and has been doing it for years. And he's built all of mine. And, I just want to give him a shout out because I couldn't do this and have all of these without his help and the stuff he builds for me. It's been great.
Yeah, no, good.
Yeah,
Probably well deserved shout out. If he's a talker, let's get him on the podcast. He can tell us stories about his engine builds.
there you go. Sounds good.
So you got a 69 Baja project as the last one that we'll talk about. Tell me
Right.
what's the vision for this Baja project?
Kind of multi-purpose. I had a sand rail, which I know we're going to talk about later, and here in Michigan, we've got sand dunes up in the northwest part of the state, Silver Lake, and you take that out on the dunes, and you're just full of sand. I mean, you get sand everywhere. It's not fun. And we were visiting friends of ours that I race with. They've got a cottage up there, Keith and Joyce. We went up and visited, and I'm driving home, and I'm thinking, a Baja would be really nice. You're inside, you won't eat the sand. We could drive it on the street, take it on trails, and then we bought a small motorhome a couple years ago, so I can flat tow it behind the motorhome and use it wherever we go. So mainly multi-purpose,
Okay.
but
Sounds like
and then
and I think
yeah,
as I've learned more, about the versatility of the Baja,
mm, yeah,
I understand now why some people are very attracted to them and really only choose to drive them. Dude, they go
right,
anywhere. They really do. And you see it. You see it in on videos and all kinds of stuff. I mean, these things are keeping up with Jeeps on trails and stuff.
Oh
It's
yeah.
pretty amazing for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. When I started this project, I contacted Greg and I said, "Hey, I'm doing a Baja. I need an engine." I said, "So we're building the race car engine." That's where the 2276 came from. And then my old race motor, we've detuned it and bought another exhaust from Tiger at A1. And so the Baja is going to have a 2110 also.
Awesome,
So,
man.
yeah.
So I gotta ask you just because, for those of us that only have two, uh,
Mhm.
why six? Why keep six?
Yeah, that's a good question. I am going to have five. I'm going to sell the Westie. That was always part of the plan when I bought the split window. But really, they're all different, right? So they all have a different feel, a different purpose, and it's just fun. And I like driving different things. Sometimes you're in the mood for fast, sometimes you're in the mood for cruising, whatever. So
Yeah, I get
I
that.
I can afford it at this point, and I've got the space to store them. So why not? You know.
Do you name them?
It's funny. The very first car I took, that beige 67, I took to the bug out, which is one of the ones we'll talk about that ended. But um, the first time I took it there, this couple came up to me and, "Oh, a really nice car. What's its name?" I said, "Name? What are you talking about?" So no, and they said, "Well, we're going to come back next year, and we expect you to have a name for this car." Well, it's a good thing I didn't see them because I didn't name it. Never gotten into that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. That's all right. I sit around sometimes and I stress out a little bit because I'm like, man, what am I going to name this next car? Or,
Yeah.
you almost have to like, and I've always been like this, even with animals. Fortunately, I
Hmm.
didn't do this with my kids, but I've done it with most animals I've had. I have to own them and I have to like kind of feel their personality and, see
Hmm.
how they face life before I can give them a name. And I've been like that with cats and with dogs and really with any animal I've ever had, even reptiles. Uh,
Hmm.
I've always had to, I need to own them first. I can't, just throw a name out there. I feel like the cars are the same way.
Yeah.
I gotta own it. I gotta drive it. I gotta kind of, see how many times it's gonna let me down in the first couple weeks, first couple months.
Right.
If I'm gonna give it a sweet name, or if I'm gonna give it a name that makes me want to say it with anger. But yeah,
Right.
okay. Out of these, you mentioned that there is one that you are gonna sell. Is there one that you would actually never sell though?
Never's pretty permanent. I don't know that I would never sell.
Okay.
Um, the 67 is probably the one I would be most likely to keep, though about a year ago I did have it up for sale for a while,
Okay.
and maybe it's a good thing that it didn't go anywhere.
Right.
Um, yeah. And the Super, it was Rudy's car. I love how it drives and handles. That one I would probably really struggle to sell.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which one of these out of all of these is the most you?
The 67.
Okay.
Having had it the longest, and most people tend to identify that car as me, you know. So I would say it's that one.
So let's talk about these drag events. You said 20 years ago or so, a couple of VW events died in your backstory. Kind of, tell me what happened. What happened with these events originally, 20 years ago?
Yeah, so the bug out, it was in a neighboring town of Milan, Michigan, and it had been going for 20 plus years. It was a huge event, the classic format car show, swap meet, drag race. It attracted a lot of racers. It was a big show. Um, I've heard some different rumors. I don't know what's true. I think the main thing is the promoter retired.
Okay.
He retired from his business and just retired from running this show.
Yeah, that happens.
Um,
We all get older and that happens.
yeah, 20 years is a long time.
Yeah.
Um, Especially when you're taking on the financial responsibility as a promoter, that's a big deal.
Yeah. Not wrong.
Yeah, and the other event, I had only really seen it for a couple years. It was a smaller racing circuit. They were going to a handful of tracks in this area. One of them was our home track, and they were doing a small car show with it. Um, and that the same year as the last year of the bug out, was their last year. And I don't really know the background, or I didn't really know those people. Um, I just I know that I had seen at that event at 131 at the track, there was a couple that had a really nice Beetle. They got out of the Beetle at one point and they had 131 jackets on. And so that's a little foreshadowing. We'll come back to that.
Well, it
So,
sounds like this was, a pretty established event, and you probably took notice of that type of stuff. So
yeah.
what goes through your mind when you realize, man, these events could disappear?
Yeah, it was pretty disappointing. Every winter I'd be looking all over for the dates and get them on my calendar and make sure I was at these events. And when it went away and there was nothing, it was sad. It was a big deal and looked forward to it all summer long. And just knowing that it was over, um, I just kind of felt like, and I don't really know where it came from necessarily, but I felt like I had to do something. I couldn't just let it fade away in the state of Michigan,
Oh, that's cool.
right?
I
Yeah.
respect that.
Mhm.
So walk us through this cold call, this cold call to US 131.
Yeah, it was 20 years ago, so I don't know if I remember all the details exactly, but my recollection is I just called the track and I told them about the bug out ending and how it had been running for 20 years and talked a little bit about this other event and that I had seen someone at the track that had a Beetle that appeared to work for the track because they had the 131 jackets on. And it was Stephanie Peterson that answered the phone. And she said, "Yeah, that's my Beetle. What do you want to do?" It's pretty much how it went. And so I just explained to her the format of what was happening at the bug outs. And she uh, she told me that her dad, Steve Irway, owned Rockingham at that time in North Carolina, and that they had done Volkswagen events there. And she had gone and helped at those events, so she was familiar with the format and everything.
Sure.
And I think that kind of helped sell it. Um, but yeah, I mean that fall they put together the first one, so it went pretty quick.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for you, for I guess the big picture, right? Why does local racing culture matter?
I guess I don't have a clear answer for that. I mean, I just enjoyed it and liked watching it, and it seemed so unique to me, the specific event for Volkswagen. And I just hated to see it go away because I mean the next closest one to us is 4+ hours away. And it just seemed a shame in Michigan to not have a Volkswagen race. We're so car oriented here in this state, obviously, with the big three and everything. So just felt important to not let it die. At that time, honestly, I was more into the car show scene than the racing.
Right.
But
Okay.
yeah.
Your first event when it happened. Tell me what it felt like for you when the first event kicked off. How'd it feel?
Yeah, I mean it felt great. I mean, it felt like a success that
Okay.
that show scene didn't die in Michigan, right? And just the fact that we pulled it off and that quick and had the full support of the track.
Mhm.
Um, you know, we're very fortunate here, and a lot of people I think don't really realize it, that our event is run by the track. It's not run by a promoter. I'm not a promoter, so the track handles the financing, they handle the promoting, they handle having the insurance, they staff it. And that's very unusual, I believe, in the scene for Volkswagen events.
It's not common to have, that kind of organizational structure and help. Now,
Right.
let me make sure I say this too. I've
Hmm.
interviewed some guys that have been on the show from all over the country that are full-time promoters that are very good at what they do. Very
Sure.
passionate, badass cars, you know. Uh,
Right.
they do car shows. They have sponsors out the yin yang. It's like I'm asking them like, dang man, what are you saying to these folks to get them to commit to you the way that you are? And again, I think it's the way they give back. It's the way they fuel the community. It's the stories that happen. And yeah, man, I love these events as they take
Right.
place and as they evolve. Talking about the people though, the people in these kind of events, the people that we, you know, talk to, that we intertwine with, that we mix up with from a leadership perspective, being somewhat of a promoter. What has organizing taught you about people since you've been doing it?
It's taught me that, there's a lot of great people out there that want to be involved. And, we have a big volunteer network that helps with this event.
Mhm.
Um, in the very beginning, we had a local car club, Volkswagen club, that's kind of faded some now, but we were super involved and we were promoting, handing out flyers everywhere we went, talking it up on the internet, and that was great. That's, I think, how the thing took off in the beginning, right? Um, but then also there was an example that we were at a show down in Indiana and I was passing out flyers and I met this couple that were into the water cooled cars. And she's like, "Oh, cool." And she came to the next one. And the next thing you know, she's running the car show side of things, just kind of out of nowhere. And it's just cool to run into people like that are passionate about it, want to see the hobby grow, and just get involved. And she's been doing that for years now, comes in early, sets up the registration tent, registers all the cars, organizes it, helps with the voting, and volunteer. And
Yeah,
she has recruited people to help her,
yeah,
so it's been awesome. And it's stuff like that that keeps our show going.
yeah. No.
Yeah.
So have there been moments where you have even felt like maybe this was something that you didn't want to do, maybe that you wanted to quit?
Not necessarily the event or being involved in it. I've stayed involved and volunteered for the whole time. Um, you know, Stephanie and the track staff, they're busy running all of their events. So I try to be like the eyes and ears of the Volkswagen hobby and give her feedback. But um, the days of the event, I was always busy. I'd get there early, help set up for the car show, help the swap meet folks get their booth set up, and then I was drag racing.
Hmm.
And I talked to Stephanie and said, you know what, I'm going to quit racing at this event so I can do all this other work. And she said, nope, you're not. I'm going to just bring in more staff and I
Oh,
want you to race.
oh, Stephanie sounds
So
like she's awesome.
yeah, that was as close as I came to doing to quitting anything.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So tell me, what keeps this event going, 20 years later?
Honestly, a huge part of it is Stephanie. She's been awesome to work with from the very beginning, from that cold call. Um, she keeps it going. We're a small event in their schedule for the track for the whole year. And so I'm honored to work with her and have her uh, keep it going. It was her suggestion to do two a year right from the very beginning. And that surprised me. But really, it's her and her family. It's her and her husband run the track. Her her kids have gotten involved now in running it, and
Nice.
her staff and all the volunteers. It's all of that combined that keeps it going. But honestly, if it wasn't for Stephanie, I I don't think we would have this event.
Oh man, that's
Yeah, yeah, it's been awesome.
got to give credit where it's due. And I think the
Absolutely.
suggestion for her probably came from her experience. You said, she had family down in Carolinas, et cetera, that had done previous events. And yeah,
Right.
that's pretty amazing. Sounds like a cool chick.
Yeah. Yeah, she's awesome.
So your first sand rail,
Yeah.
how terrifying was that experience?
It was an interesting story. So, um, a buddy of mine who has since passed, he helped me get this thing street legal. I bought it, it was running, driving, but it wasn't street legal. So we did the things we had to do. And the weekend I got it done and got the tabs and everything. I loaded on a trailer and went to the drag strip to do test and tune. Had had never done it before. Um, and I show up and I remember the guy at work told me it was Mopar weekend and the place was packed, just packed. And I went by myself. Some buddies were meeting me, and I'm driving around looking for a place to pit. I see this guy with the Mustang. I'm like, well, I'll park with the other guy that doesn't belong here.
Yeah.
And I was talking to him, and he's telling me how the track works and how the lights work and all this kind of stuff. And later in the day, I ended up lined up with him.
Oh.
And it's funny as I was kind of going back through notes, my recollection was I beat him and he loaded up his car and left. Video evidence tells me my memory was a little optimistic. Um, I didn't beat him, but you could hear the crowd cheering. They couldn't believe I was that close to beating him.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah,
Wow.
the rail wasn't intimidating, but that event and the crowd and the amount of cars that were there, and the first time you're up there and you're thinking, man, am I going to do all of this right or am I going to look like an idiot? And it ended up a pretty successful day, so it was fun.
The 64 Beetle. What's the setup in the 64?
Yeah, so that car I had bought from George, it was just a shell, and I'd had it painted, and George is the one that introduced me to Greg Hudson, and Greg built me a 1835 and just the mild trans upgrade. But we lightened the car as much as I could figure out how to do. Rudy and I, that was our fun. We just challenged each other to see how much weight we could take out of these cars, because weight is horsepower.
Right.
Um, but yeah, that stayed in 1835, and when I got the 70 from Rudy,
Mhm.
I sold that car to a buddy of mine, and he's still got it now. He's lightened it even more. It's got a 2332 in it,
Whoa.
carbon fiber hood, fiberglass doors. He's gone nuts with it, but
Oh yeah. Yeah.
it's cool. The car's still here, and he and I work together on our cars and stuff. So
That is cool.
yeah,
But
yeah.
the 70 you said that you have has got the 2110 in it.
It did. And last year we put a 2276 in it.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right. Okay.
Yeah,
All right. Well, let's talk about winning for a second.
sure.
The US 131 Eurofest, you got victories there, right?
Yep. A few
Tell,
times.
yeah, tell me about those victories.
Yeah, the first couple of times, I mean, it was like a huge surprise, right? I hadn't really had any real background in it, was just learned it there. So the first time it was just amazing. It's like, holy cow, how did I pull this off? You know. Um, but then as time went on and I did it more, it felt different. It's like now the upgrades to the car or practice or, getting seat time, then it's like, okay, this is paying off. I've figured out how to do this a little bit more. So it's been fun to go through that progression over the years.
Yeah, so then there's the Summer Nationals in Ohio. Is that some of
Yeah.
your toughest competition?
Yeah, there's a fair amount of guys that come up from there. There's one guy in particular, Troy McNair. He's got a rabbit that's crazy fast, and now he's racing a Beetle also. And he's one of the tough ones. I try to avoid lining up with him whenever I can.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then there's Mason Dixon.
Yeah, this was a fun event. The first time I'd gone, had never been there, didn't know a whole lot about it. And Scott Picaro, the promoter, he saw we had posted on Facebook we were coming and thanked us. Couldn't believe we were coming from Michigan. when we got there, he welcomed us, just an awesome guy. And a neat event, really big, tons of cars and different cars. That's part of the fun of traveling to some of these is you see cars you don't see locally. And I my car had been running 8.2s at home at the time, so I signed up for pro. And I get there and my car ran 7.8s. I'm like, what the heck is going on? So we had two time trial runs. I slowed the car down, tried everything I could to slow it down, and it only dropped to a 7.82. So I'm like, okay, this event's too big. I'm not going to try and change classes. So I dialed in an 8, and that's the first time I ever pedaled the car every pass, and I ended up winning the class.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's
I was pretty thrilled with that. And that was my first time getting one of those big fake checks, you know.
so then there's the VW invasion at Summer Duck. Now, if I'm not mistaken, this is Colton Williams, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
What stands out about this event? I think I've been told this is one of the larger events on the East Coast, right?
It's a newer event and it's definitely growing. It has gotten bigger. We've been twice now.
Okay.
Um, and last Memorial Day, I always get those two confused. Memorial Day was the first one that I went to. And Colton was awesome. I contacted him ahead of time. We were coming down with our motorhome and just wanted to get the lay of the land. And he said, I'll be here when you show up the night before. We ended up getting in late. And he stayed just super accommodating. And he treats everybody like family, and it's it's a great environment. And the car show is good. And like you said, you see different cars, and the racing's really well run. Um, yeah, it's been fun. And this event is one where the first time I tried doing the dual entry, and he helped me coordinate that. Hadn't done that before, had to get right back up in line and all that. And he's been really cool. And on that first one, I got another one of those fake checks with real money too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Fun
Because I
stuff.
won the Super Pro class the first time there, which
Yeah,
was that was awesome.
yeah, nothing wrong with winning. My
No,
personality type. I've worked in sales my whole life. I'm a sales trainer.
right.
That's what I do for work professionally. I own a real estate company with my wife as well.
Okay.
That's all we do is sell. So
Yeah,
nothing wrong with winning. Certainly
right.
a younger brother. I've got two older brothers. Was raised in a family that was very competitive. And yeah, I think it's just part of my spirit, my background too. Nothing wrong with
Right.
winning.
Right.
Tell me this though, what does drag racing teach you about focus over the years?
Um, it teaches me that it's important. Bracket racing is primarily what we do. I don't get into the heads up stuff. I'm not really fast enough for that. And so consistency is super important in it. And one of the things that I know is I'm not always good at it. It's easy to get up there and you're thinking about the wrong thing and whatever. It's easy to get distracted, but it's super important.
So
Yeah.
is it adrenaline or is it precision?
Probably for me, it's more precision. I mean,
Okay,
of course, there's adrenaline when you win, but
naturally.
yeah, it's about the precision and trying to figure it out and how to um, be consistent. You got to hit that dial in and so forth. So,
So how do you handle when the opposite happens, when you don't win? How do you handle losing?
well, I've lost more than I've won. Um,
Michael Jordan used to say that.
oh yeah, I try not to let it bother me. My wife tells me that sometimes I'm not very good at that. I'll overanalyze it, especially if I know I screwed something up, trying to figure out what I did wrong, what I got to do next.
Yeah.
Um, but it's just the fun. I mean, this is just a hobby. I don't take it super serious, so I just try to learn and improve and have fun with it. Um, But when I do lose, like I mentioned before, we do a lot of traveling with Keith Allen and his wife Joyce, and the four of us go together to all these races now, and we have a lot of fun traveling like that and doing that. So that's important to me. But the other thing we do is we help each other. So if I'm out, I'm immediately crew chief, and I'm helping Keith through the event, and he does the same for me. So,
That's cool.
losing just means you change your role for
Yeah,
us.
that's super cool. Well said too. So
Yeah.
a lot of racers, drag racers especially, have rituals. Do you
Yeah.
have any pre-race rituals?
Not a ton. I mean, of course, I'll look at what the other car's dial in is to figure out if I'm leaving first or last, and understand what's coming. But I always get like the pre-race jitters, and so the first time down the track kind of helps settle that down in the time trials, but a lot of times I'm just get my helmet on, so it narrows the focus. You hear less, it's like getting your blinders on. Yeah.
Yeah, I see you
And
focused.
I'll sit there and take a deep breath and just try and settle down. But beyond that,
No
not a
worries.
whole
Okay. All right. Some people, won't eat breakfast or, they can't have a banana the night before a race, whatever. I hear all kinds of stuff, and I
lot.
have
Yeah.
over time.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about this Dairy Queen cruise in. I know it's relatively new, something that you had started. Tell me how
Mhm.
it started.
I got the idea from the VW Life guys on their YouTube channel.
Okay.
They talked about just set up event and it'll grow, and they emphasized consistency with it. Same place, same time of day, same day within the month.
Okay.
So I just kind of took that and pieced it together, and we started doing it the third Thursday of the month.
Okay.
And we do it May through September just to avoid the bad weather.
Sure.
Um, but that's kind of where it came from.
So first night you did it, first Thursday.
Hmm.
How many cars showed up for your first event?
I think we had about 10.
Okay.
It's never been anything real huge. Um, I think maybe we've gotten up to 14, 15 cars. Um, and some of that for me is I look at it like we got a small core group here in Battle Creek where I live, and
Okay.
we do this in Hastings, which is about 20 miles away. And if nothing else, that core group gets together once a month.
Yeah, which is nice.
So, yeah.
So why a Dairy Queen? Is it just because of accessibility or is there a reason?
There's family history there. My
Okay.
grandfather, they lived in New York, and he got involved in Dairy Queen real early on, like
Uh,
with the founders of Dairy Queen, and he sold the franchises in New York. So we just have a family history of like in Dairy Queen. I grew up going there and stuff.
Super
They
interesting.
they were out of it after I was or before I was born, but just still kind of that connection, I guess. My dad worked in them and helped train the new owners and all that kind of stuff. So
Oh, heck yeah. No, that's
yeah,
cool. That's cool. So there's definitely
yeah,
history there. That's why Dairy Queen. All right.
right.
Hey,
Plus, it was a good location. It's on a main street and in Hastings there, and Hastings kind of central between some of the bigger towns in the area. So I thought it might draw some people from other towns, and it did.
cool.
Yeah, yeah.
What do you think makes these, kind of cruise nights different from maybe a larger car show?
I think the key difference is they're just more relaxed, right? They're just that. They're a cruising. It's just hey, let's meet up and hang out. So there's no pressure of trying to get a trophy and polishing your car and all that kind of stuff. It's just getting together, catching up with friends and hanging out. And and for me, selfishly, it's an opportunity to try and promote the Eurofest to anybody new, right?
Oh,
Anybody shows up, they're getting flyers.
yeah, no, that's good. That's good. As they should, as they should. We got to keep these
Right.
events alive, and the only way to do it is to put the word out there.
right?
Tell me, do you think that grassroots gatherings really matter in a community?
I think so. I mean, from this type of thing, there's been some nice growth. Like uh, guy that's become a friend now, David Vanderschaff, he started a cruise in his own up in Grand Rapids that's an hour away, and
Okay.
he's doing the same thing. And now we're actually merging our Facebook pages into one to promote it all together. You
Okay.
know, so
Cool.
that's some growth that's come out of the Dairy Queen Thursday thing, right? And we end up meeting people that are new into it, just got a car, and we're helping them figure things out.
Yeah,
So
cool.
I
Awesome.
think it helps make some of those connections, you
You
know.
you guys
So
got some of the younger generation starting to show up. Are you noticing anything there?
yeah, David's son comes often.
Okay.
Um, One time I went up to one of their cruise-ins and I offered to let him take my Super Beetle for a ride, and his son jumped in the car before he did. You know,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Heck yeah, I bet. I probably would try to beat him to it as well.
Yeah, so he's interested. There's another father and son that come, and the son's building a Beetle or a bus rather. I'm sorry, and so I drove mine up there the one time and put him behind the wheel, and we went around town in it, and he was thrilled. He was hooked. So
That's
yeah,
that's
they're
our
coming.
real responsibility is to keep this air cooled culture alive.
Right.
Speaking of the culture, a couple of questions about it. I'm going
Mhm.
to ask you what worries you and what excites you about the air cooled culture. But let's start with what worries you. What worries you about the future of air cooled culture itself?
Um, the thing that came to mind to that is kind of a little bit indirect, I guess, but some of it's like the businesses that support us seeming to go away, right? Like aircooled.net is gone, and they were a great resource. And then recently I've seen CB Performance is up for sale. And so those kind of patterns make me nervous because without a supply of parts, our hobby is impacted.
Yeah.
And I guess that's been more of a concern lately. 'Cause if it's hard to get parts or it gets expensive to get parts, people aren't going to do it.
Yeah.
So,
I go
yeah,
back to being a 17, 18-year-old kid struggling to find parts for my transmission. I had to put a whole different assembly and transmission in it because I struggled to find parts. So I can only
right,
imagine as an engine builder slash, yeah, how that would be. So yeah, I can imagine. All right, let's flip the
right.
script though. What excites you? What excites you about air cooled culture?
Um, I mean, a big part of it is the friendship that comes out of a lot of it, right? And I hear you talk about that a lot on your podcasts, and that to me is exciting. Most of our friends are from the Volkswagen community, just as my wife and I. So that's exciting. And then meeting new people in it and seeing like some of the younger generation get in it.
Yeah,
And even like when we take our Westie to shows and the little kids come around, like the toddlers, and they're all looking at it, and we're excited to let them crawl in it. It's like we go up to the parents and say, "Go ahead, let them crawl all over it. They aren't going to hurt it." And
yeah.
that's fun to see.
Mm.
But
That's important
um,
too,
yeah,
to not be, that I don't know. I say this because it comes to mind, but to not be the Karen of the to not, just to I've had a couple other guests that come on too that are, let the kids in them, let them touch,
right,
let them feel, let them experience them, let them beep the horn,
right,
let them rev it up, let them feel it, Well, hopefully they'll get hooked, right?
yeah,
That's what we're hopeful for. But
yeah,
that's
yeah.
cool.
Yeah,
I'm
the other exciting thing for me is I've been retired just about a year now, and I get to spend way more time in the garage working on the Volkswagens. So
all right.
that's exciting and
I
looking
bet.
forward to the warm weather and getting them on the road. So
Do you think our hobby, air cooled Volkswagens as a whole, do you think it's getting too expensive?
it's definitely getting more expensive. You know, The split buses are expensive. I honestly didn't think I would ever have one, so I was pretty pleased that I could put this deal together. But yeah, they're getting more expensive. And then, you know, when those took off and started getting crazy expensive, and then you could see it in the bay windows and the other ones that used to be less desirable. So,
I actually prefer a bay myself.
right.
I've had a split, and I probably would have kept it if it wasn't as far gone as it was. um, for me. Now, the guy that got it didn't think it was far gone at all, but he does metal work, etc. I didn't, and don't. But again, looking at them side by side, my brain and my mind, if I've got two of them together, I'm gonna go inspect the bay before I am the split. Even though splits are gorgeous, and I don't have anything against them, I just
Yeah.
I prefer that large front window and just the shape itself. But again, this ain't about me. Back to you. Back to you. Do you think that flipping these cars, these buses, do you think that it's helping or that it's hurting the hobby?
Um, I mean, I think it's drawn some more attention to it, but I think the flipping, like the stuff we saw, like on the Barrett Jacksons and stuff, where the buses went for over 200,000, I think that hurt the hobby because, in general, the Volkswagen hobby is affordable, or it had been, and they're cheaper than like the V8 cars and stuff.
Right.
But I think that kind of flipping hasn't helped.
Okay. So the high
Yeah,
end builds and that
yeah,
type of flipping. Okay. I mean that's
yeah.
I can take that. Let me ask you
Mhm.
your opinion on something. If because you're into racing, it's
Right.
not something I'm that familiar with, but if somebody young, like my son's age, or these kids that come to, your meetups, if a younger person or a younger kid wanted to start racing VWs, where would you tell them to begin?
Um, I would start cheap, find an inexpensive Beetle that's not rotted out and don't go overboard on it. I think you can get into it and have a lot of fun and keep the cost down. Spend time making it faster by making it lighter, and that's easy. Take stuff out, drill some holes, you know, and uh, and really you can get into it with just a 1600. Because like we've talked about before, the drag racing in the Volkswagen world's primarily bracket racing, and that's about consistency, not the ultimate speed. To me, the only time speed is important is if you want to be in a different class to race a different group of racers. But yeah, I would say keep it cheap and just get into it and get your feet wet.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about what's your thought on the electric conversions? Is it a yes or a no for you?
Uh, Currently a no.
Okay.
I feel that there's a lot of capability within the Volkswagen air-cooled platform. You know, like we went out to Texas versus the world last year and just spectated. And man, it's incredible what these cars are doing with an air-cooled Volkswagen engine. So I don't see the need for it. Kind of the same thing with Subaru conversions or people putting V8s in them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm not a real purist, but that's not my thing.
Yeah, okay. You
Yeah,
can have that. That's why I wanted to ask.
right.
I've seen, like Bug Jam or some of the larger shows that attract, five, six, seven, 800 cars. I've seen
Sure.
I've seen some converted, like I'm thinking of one now that the Ammerman family did. They did a thing that was on a Tesla uh you know
Mm,
build essentially. All the
right.
motors, everything was Tesla, the batteries, the brain, the system. And dude, this thing was incredible. I mean, it won some awards at Bug Jam. I've
Right.
seen a Beetle, a oval window Beetle Shout out to Oval Office.
There you
I,
go.
I saw an oval Beetle at one of these shows I was at recently that was gorgeous. I mean, I couldn't believe this thing. Then you get around to the back of it and I go, "Hold on, it's electric?"
Yeah,
And the electric, aspect of it looked just as beautiful as the rest of the car. So, can't say that I personally would do it. I'm just a old air-cooled fan myself, but
right.
those some of the builds are pretty incredible, man. There's no dollars spared. I mean, if
Oh yeah,
they would have invested the same thing into the air cooled parts, they'd probably have a pretty badass air cooled setup. Um,
right.
but anyhow, let's get back to talking about drag racing. Do you think drag racing still exists in 20 years in the Volkswagen community?
I think so, and I hope so, because I enjoy it and I hope to continue doing it for a long time. Um, you still see new people getting into it, even though you can kind of see sometimes the flip side where, everyone's getting older and there aren't as many of the young guys getting in it, but there's people still getting into it,
Yeah.
and I think it'll continue. And if we continue to have tracks that support it, like our local one, yeah, it'll keep going.
So I'm like this fan, right? And I feel like these guys, I'd be willing to jump in my Gia and drive it anywhere,
Right.
quite literally. But my kids, they don't have that same, because they hear when I call my wife when I break down, and
Mhm.
I'm like, honey, we got to call AAA, come get me, or whatever. Uh,
Yeah.
so where it's at with my kids is they're into them. They like it. They come to our events. They have fun. They help. They volunteer. But when it comes to, like, let's just say, for instance, my 15-year-old,
Mhm.
very recently he's told me that, he's wanted an F-150. That's what he's wanted since he was like a 10-year-old. He wants a truck. He wants a truck. It's a four-door, it's a crew cab, it's four-wheel drive, it's got big tires, blah, blah, blah. Well,
Yeah.
last year he comes to me and he says, Dad, I think I've changed my mind. I think I want a GTI. I want a Golf. That's what
There
I
you
want.
go.
I want the four-door, I want the 2 liter. I want this, I want that. I'm like, dang, okay. So you don't want an old Beetle or anything cool like that? You don't want anything air cooled? Oh, no, no, no. Those things break down way too much for me. I need something dependable. I need something reliable. I'm like, okay, all right. So he got bit, right? But not
Right.
not necessarily by the air cooled side, which is fine, which is fine. They're
Yeah.
all supportive. My wife too, actually that Carmen Gia is hers.
Hmm.
She's so supportive she had to have her own. Uh,
Right.
yeah, which is awesome. Let me ask you this question. What do you think the real reason people stay in the VW scene for decades and decades for? What do you think the reason is because of?
I think there's multiple things. I mean, the cars are very unique, right? There's nothing else shaped like a Beetle. Um, and so they're also well admired, right? I mean, you hear the stories all the time of you stop at a gas station and people are telling you their Volkswagen story.
Oh yeah.
Uh, so there's a big,
Every time.
yeah, all the time. So
Yeah.
there's a big connection that way, and they're easy to work on, relatively speaking. They, and even though we just contradicted it, but they tend to be inexpensive. Um, but
They
I honestly, I think the biggest thing is the people. You develop a lot of really good connections. Um, there's two guys talk about a little bit that live just south of here. They've been in it for years and years, and the one guy was honestly thinking about getting out of racing, getting older, and he's talking about his eyesight and all this kind of stuff. And we started getting closer to them and hanging out, and he's right back into it. He's building a new engine this year, and the other guy, he's building a whole chassis car that he got from his buddy's estate,
oh,
so and these guys are in their 70s and and still pushing it. And a big part of that, I think, is the connections, and the friendships. And we've traveled together. We went to Vegas 2 years ago to watch that event. We went
yes.
to Texas last year. You know, we even I started doing this, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. In the winter, we get together and we do what we call a museum trip. And our whole local group, mostly centered around the racers. There's about a dozen or so of us. And we go to a museum and we go to dinner. And we just do it in the middle of the winter because otherwise we're inside, you know. We don't have warm weather year round like you do. And it's just been a cool connection. And we've started to realize the museum and the cars in the museum aren't important. We're walking around and talking about what are we doing with our cars more than what we're looking at.
Right.
But
It's like you said,
you
it's the
know,
connection.
it's the connections and the Volkswagen family. It's huge. And it's surprising you hear so many people talk about that. Sometimes you think it's just you and your group of people, but there's something about the Volkswagens that brings that out in people or brings those people in. I don't know what it is.
Yeah. Well, you know the old bumper sticker, right? They say birds of a feather flock together.
There you go.
I think it's very true. Let me ask you though, what's your family think about six cars? I got two, and my family's like, yo, you're gonna have to sell one sometime soon. I'm like, no, because we're running out of room in the driveway, right? But so tell me what your family feels about six of them.
Yeah. Well, both my boys are grown. The one's in Pennsylvania, one's in Texas. I started having Volkswagens when they were still around. They they never really got into it. Neither one of them have them. Um, but they were never against it. But I also, if I remember the timeline right, I think I probably only had one, maybe two when they were still home. Um, but my wife's supportive. She comes to all the events with me. She comes to all the drag racing. She's taking videos and helping, and will help me in the garage when I need another set of hands. Um,
Cool.
but kind of the funny thing is she's very careful now to not say, I want a, because
Because
our
you'll make it
first
happen.
bus,
Yeah.
our first bus came out of a statement like that, where she was at a car show visiting with a friend of mine that had a bus, and he's a big electronic gadget guy. And so he had the auxiliary battery and had a fan going, and she was sitting in a bus with the fan blowing on her, talking to him. And later that day, she's like, I want a bus. And it was about 2 weeks. And I had a project bus,
Awesome.
and
Yeah,
that's that
yeah, that's
69
great.
bus that I
So
sold.
so you're a doer like me then. You just
Yeah,
make things happen. I'm the same
yeah,
way.
yeah.
My wife had to start talking about that Carmen Gia, and I made it happen. I even found one. She told me she wouldn't drive one if it was a stick shift. I said,
There you go.
all right, hold my
You can
beer then.
fix that.
Watch this. I
Right.
got that covered. We just got to get a later model one, but
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
Tell me this one. Tell me what winning means to you now versus what winning meant to you 20 years ago.
I think, in the beginning, I was kind of amazed that I pulled it off. Um, it was kind of one of those, it just felt like luck. It was my turn or something like that. But now it's more of a sense of accomplishment and, like working with Greg on the engines and the transmissions and bouncing ideas off of, Twig and Ron that I was just talking about that have been doing it for years, and Keith and Jerry, and, and putting all that stuff together and learning together. And then those things work. So then it feels a little bit more like now it's skill or experience. And so
Right.
it's a different sense of accomplishment, I guess, to win now than before. Um, but that when I was looking at the notes, it just reminded me of a story. It was kind of early on when I was racing. I don't even remember which car I was in at the time. Might have been that first Beetle. And I made it to the finals. And Greg's daughter was also racing. She raced his dune buggy. She was out, so I wasn't competing with her. And I knew I was racing this dragster. So I saw Greg and I yelled over to him and I said, Greg, she's out. You're on my team now. What the heck do I do running this dragster? And he's like, just run your race, stay focused. And, if you get to the top end of the track and you can't hear them and you can't see them, pedal it. He said, because that car is crazy fast. He said, but he's struggling to get off the line. And he says, bogging off the line. He said, but if that engine catches, that thing's like a rocket and he's coming for you. And I had never pedaled a car before that. Every pass was just all out and the car did what it did, you know. And I I got to the near the end of the track, couldn't hear him, couldn't see him in my mirrors, and I blipped that gas pedal just the littlest bit. And I won the race, won the event, and my wife had recorded the video, and you could hear the announcer saying, he said, that was the closest pass to the dial in all day. And he could hear me blip the pedal. And he said, if he wouldn't have pedaled it, he would have lost. And the car was at like half track. So I could have broke out for absolutely no reason if I wouldn't have pedaled it. So it was a good thing Greg put that in my head.
Cool. What a great
Yeah,
story. Heck
that
yeah.
was a fun one. We talk about that often.
So tell
Yeah.
me if US 131 Eurofest ended tomorrow, how would it make you feel?
Yeah, I would hate to think about it. I mean, that's not a good thought at all. But honestly, I really think it won't. Um, I don't think Stephanie will let it happen. Um, like I said, she's a huge supporter of it. You know, I think if it were to happen, I would probably change the course of the hobby for me. You know, at times, there's been times where I've thought about stepping away from all of it just a little bit, you know, and I've always wanted a 911 Targa.
Mm,
That's honestly my dream car, always has been. And
I love that car.
yeah, and I like the later ones with the whale tails. That must just because of the era I grew up in. But I don't know. If it went away, I could see potentially switching to that car and go in a different direction. But hopefully, I don't have to ever worry about that.
Yeah, we don't even got to go there. So over
Yeah.
time, when people mention Bren Hartman, what do you hope that they associate with your name?
Yeah, I think leadership, you know, I mean, that's always been something that's been important to me. Every job I had, I tried to move into at least an entry level leadership role. Um, but I also am more of the behind the scenes kind of leader. Um, you know, like Eurofest, Stephanie's the one out front. I'm the one in the background, kind of helping and encouraging and promoting and stuff. But yeah, I hope people recognize that, you know, from things like Eurofest and helping keep it going, the Dairy Queen thing and the museum trips and so forth. Yeah.
That was well said. That was well said. I got some rapid fire style questions for you. These are
Okay.
questions that demand a fast response. You hear me say this probably every podcast episode. If a story comes of it, so be it. But again, they're designed to be kind of a quick, fast response. You ready for them?
Sounds good.
All right. First VW that you ever drove.
Was the four-door Fox.
Four-door Fox. That was your first
Yeah.
car?
Yeah, very basic car. And a quick story, I'm already going to break away on you.
That's all right. Let's go.
The first Volkswagen I ever rode in had a coworker that bought a Corrado, and he had bought it from a Volkswagen employee because the U.S. headquarters were near where I was working at the time. And I didn't even know what a Corrado was. And that thing was incredible. It's like a little rocket ship and handled like crazy. So that was the first one I rode in, and I was just amazed.
Mm,
No
okay.
connection to air cooled there, but
Right. No, still though, cool.
Volkswagen family. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. All right. How
Yep.
about this one? Favorite engine platform?
Yep. The flat floor air cooled,
Okay.
right?
Yep. Kind of figured, but
Basic. Yeah.
all right. How about this one? I'm pretty sure I'm going to know the answer, but
Right.
patina or full paint?
The patina.
Yeah, I kind of knew that.
I like owning them. I appreciate, you know, the real high end painted cars, but I don't prefer to own them at this time. And I kind of like the sleeper idea of a patina car. kind of maybe not looking so nice, but then having the big engine in it and has the performance and surprises people. So that's
Yeah,
fun too.
I kind of like them too more now myself, just because for me, I'm on the beach. This whole vibe down here is kind of this, salty, kind of, little rust, not so perfect. Nice,
Right.
nice wheels, mostly lowered, mostly, they put them on air ride.
Mhm. Right.
But me too. I'm really kind of more of a patina fan these days myself. All right, how about this one?
Right.
Bus or bug? If you had to choose
Oh,
one only.
both. Um,
No, you got to
but
pick one.
choosing between them, I mean, right now, the patina bus that I bought um, would lean me towards the bus. I had the idea of selling the 67 and the bay window in order to pull off this bus, and my vision was, combining the patina look and the bus and the big engine.
Okay.
So if I could only keep one, it'd be a bus.
Best track you ever raced on?
Well, of course, it's 131, our home track.
There you go.
And it is an awesome track, honestly. I mean, this year they've switched to NHRA and they're getting a national event. So
Wow.
it's an amazing track and an amazing facility, really top notch. So yeah, we're very fortunate to have that resource right here and then have them support our hobby.
Yeah, super cool.
Yeah.
Interesting question.
Hmm.
Some people get rubbed the wrong way by it, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What's the most overrated VW? Overrated.
Yeah. I think the ID Buzz.
Oh, they were so overrated that they stopped selling them in America.
Yeah.
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 Yikes, yikes, yikes. All right, but give me your reasoning.
Because of the hype. I
Yeah.
mean, Volkswagen drug that out for so long and teased, the Volkswagen people for so long and kept showing prototypes and changes and that it was going to be affordable and all this. And then when it finally came out, it wasn't cheap. I mean, I think it looks
All.
good,
Yeah.
but it's so expensive that they just priced themselves right out and the range isn't there.
And they didn't
It was
offer they didn't offer
disappointing.
they didn't offer a gas or a diesel. I mean,
No,
from what I understood and from what I've read,
no,
Mexico's picking up production of them, and the very first thing they're doing is a TDI.
really.
Yeah, that's what I read. I'm
Hmm.
like, if that's true, what a slap in the face for us,
Yeah.
because you put a TDI in that thing, and you would have been,
Yeah, it would have been awesome.
it probably would have sold for 69, $70,000. Like, but like you said, electric with a 200-mile range. I mean, I test drove them, just because why
Did
not?
you?
You kind of had to, but
Yeah,
yeah, we test drove it, and we were my wife and I were both like, yeah, no,
right.
just no, just no. All
Yeah.
right, back to you, back to you. So most overrated's ID Buzz. All right, one part that you absolutely hate installing.
Yeah, on the rear brakes, there's the e-brake cable and where you've got to fish that through the backing plate. Man, I can struggle forever to get that lined up and in place. That's a frustrating one.
Okay, all right.
And lately, from the split window bus, the seal between the glass and the frame for the vent wing, holy cow. I ruined three seals before I got that put together correctly.
Okay,
Yeah,
all
that
right.
one's not fun.
Okay, there's a couple then.
Yeah.
How about this one? For you so far, worst mechanical failure that you've experienced?
In my Patina 67 was fairly new to me. We were driving to the show 5 hours away in Illinois, and my crank broke. We were halfway. So we were at the back of the pack of the group of cars going. I'm on the side of the highway, and I called my buddy who was out in front of me, and I said, "Hey, my crank just broke or something. I'm done."
Oh,
And he had he had a 75 Legrande auto stick that he converted to auto stick. There's an interesting one. How many people have you ever heard converted that direction?
I've never heard it actually.
Yeah. But John came back, got us, loaded us up in his Super Beetle. We went all the way home, got my van and tow bar. He left his Super Beetle home. We went all the way back, picked up the 67 and went on to the show for the weekend.
Oh, cool, man.
You talk about friendship in the hobby.
Yeah,
That's friendship right there. That was huge.
hell of a story.
Yeah.
All right, how about a dream Volkswagen that you don't own?
Yeah. It's in the Volkswagen family, the 911 Targa. But
Yeah,
if
right on, man.
but if
That's
I had to
awesome.
stay Volkswagen, it's a 69 fastback.
Okay, so
From
yeah,
everything I've heard about those, they're supposed to ride amazing and handle amazing. And I've read that some people actually equate them to a 911.
you've
So,
probably heard if you've listened to some other episodes in the past, but my favorite car of all time of the air cooled is the notchback.
okay. Yep. Those are
There,
pretty cool too.
there's just something about it. When I personally look at that car, it looks like a micro machine version of a 57 Bel Air.
Yeah.
It's that it's that coned out rear fender. It's the round front, front light and just the it just looks like that to me.
Yeah.
Sometimes people have said, I don't really see that, Joe. Other people have been like, yeah, I can picture that, but that's just where I'm at with it. But that's my favorite. But
Yeah.
not about me, it's about you. All right. One word to describe Eurofest.
Yeah, I would say passion.
Passion. Okay.
That's what's kept it going, right?
Yep. I can
Yeah.
take it. How about one word to describe the VW community?
Like we've alluded to and comes up a lot in your podcast is friendship.
Yeah,
To
okay.
me, that's the most important thing out of it. Yep.
Okay. So let's talk about where people can find you. If they want to find the next Eurofest, what's the date? How can they get in touch? Where can people find you?
Right. Well, personally, I'm on Facebook and starting to learn Instagram. Not too familiar with it yet. But yeah, for Eurofest, there is a Facebook page. It's just US 131 Eurofest. The events are posted there, and then it's also on their main website. It's us131msp.com or Motorsports Park.
Okay.
So all the information's there. And yeah, as far as the dates this year, like I said, they do two a year for us, and it's on June 7th and October 4th this year.
Okay. So you got one that's for us down here in June. It's hot as all get out. And
Yeah,
actually even harder for us, especially guys that run the bigger motors, etc. It's a little bit of a challenge for them to run in the heat of the summer here.
right.
Obviously air cooled if it's hot air doesn't mean a whole lot, but awesome, that's
Yeah,
where they can find you. So
right.
tell me this, what give me one final message that you have for anybody that's sitting on the fence about potentially getting into the Volkswagen community, the culture, getting a car, whatever. Give me one final message to them.
I mean, I think that it's just do it, right? I mean, they're not complicated cars. I never worked on cars growing up. My dad didn't work on cars. I learned it through the Volkswagen hobby, and I feel like I've done a lot and accomplished a lot. So it's very doable. Um, you know, relatively, they're not expensive. They're a blast to drive, and the people are great. So, I mean, I invite people all the time to get into it.
So, do you want to give anybody any shout outs or say what's up to anybody or, just give any credit where it's due to anybody?
Yeah, sounds good. I mean, I've mentioned a lot of people throughout the podcast, but I think one key person that's really been helping Eurofest is Donovan Lattimore. He's got Lattimore Racing engines up by Silver Lake. In the last few years, they've stepped up and been sponsoring the Eurofest, and then that's been helping with growing the payouts for the racing. So Yeah, Donovan's been a great help and been
All
a
right.
long time participant too. He's a racer himself. So
Nice. And that's a wrap for this episode of DubLife Diaries. Thanks for riding along with us and diving into these incredible stories of the people in the dubs that drive their dreams. If you love today's episode, don't forget to subscribe or hit that follow button so you never miss an adventure. Do you have a story to tell or know somebody else who's living the dub life? Awesome! Reach out to us. You can find us on all socials at DubLife Diaries or shoot me an email. I'm not hard to find. DubLifeDiaries@gmail.com. Until next time, keep the engines humming and the wheels turning, and always follow the road that inspires you. This is Joe Person. I'm signing off. I'll catch you on the next ride.